Good evening, everybody. Or rather, I should say, welcome to the third part of our series on the tri-series of change and change management. So, Sal Mubarak, and on behalf of the WZCC chapter, Bangalore, and our our chapter chair, former Air Chief Marshal Fali Major, I must get it right. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all our participants to the third session on change, the tri-series on change and change management. Now, 6 months ago, if I asked a question, when was the last time you did something new for the first time? When was the last time we did something new for the first time? I would get a very blank stare, and my students would look at me and say, "Don't know, never thought of it." Today, I dare not ask that question in my sessions because the new change, the new normal is change. And that is how we picked up the Tri series on change. As I as we go on to the third part of the Tri series, I would like to extend a warm welcome once again back to you all. Sal Mubarak, enjoy, and over to you, Dilshad.
Thank you, Shanaz Aunty. Our session starts with our very own members, two doctors and lovely human beings, Dr. Urvaksh Mehta and Dr. Isha Sharma. Dr. Isha is an assistant professor of child and adolescent psychiatry at the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, Bangalore. After her MBBS, she obtained her MD degree in psychiatry from NIMHANS in 2012 with a gold medal. Isha has experience in seeing both adults and children with mental health problems. She also works with child care services in the community, such as schools and the Child Welfare Committee. She enjoys creating awareness about child mental health issues. She also is involved in research in psychiatry and has published papers in national and international journals and won awards. Dr. Urvaksh M. Mehta is an associate professor of psychiatry at the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, Bangalore. After his MBBS, he obtained his MD degree in psychiatry from NIMHANS in 2010 with a gold medal. Urvaksh has experience in seeing adults with a broad range of mental health problems. He is passionate about understanding the causes of severe mental illnesses like schizophrenia by using brain imaging and genetic studies. He has published his findings in several national and international peer-reviewed scientific journals and has won awards for the same. Now, before we start the presentation, I want to request all of you that we are going to have a question and answer session after their presentation. So you can start typing your questions in the chat box. Thank you. Over to you, Urvaksh.
Thank you very much, Dilshad, and a very good evening to everyone. Thank you all for making time to attend this series. And thank you, WZCC Bangalore chapter, for having us over speak about something which we are quite passionate about. I'm going to share my screen right now and then begin the talk. Right. So I guess you all can see the screen now. Yes? All right. Okay.
Yeah, we can see the.
Yeah. All right. So as we begin, let me tell you that this is not. We have tried our best not to make this a prescriptive session, not to advising about how to handle change. It is important to understand that one set of solutions do not apply to everyone, and everyone has unique change-related challenges. And what we would try to do is enable a better understanding of the current situation that we are in, and make the best utility of our own abilities and resources to adapt to this change. So having said that, let's understand what the current pandemic related change entails. So to start with, the highest degree of risk, that is physical harm, you could encounter, you could be infected with the coronavirus and have the COVID disease. That will perhaps result in hospitalization. Its resultant isolation, that because of the nature of the illness, expenses, risks to close family members who are vulnerable, and you'll be worrying about that. Fear of mortality, dying. There's a lot of hype in the media about that. At a little distal level, there is also change related to material loss. Not everyone is able to hold on to their jobs. There are pay cuts, there are layoffs. At a much larger social rubric, we have witnessed a large scale of displacement and migration. The mental as well as social capital impact of lockdowns and quarantines. At a more personal level, the measures that we are supposed to take to overcome or to prevent this infection, that of social distancing, working or studying from home, not attending any social gatherings, an excessive focus and preoccupation with personal and public hygiene. So these are also changes which we encounter day in and day out. So yes, as Bob Dylan said, times they are changing and we need to learn to swim sooner than later. To understand the processes underlying change, this is a good model given by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. There's a good acronym that you could relate and remember. It's called DABDA. So when the coronavirus thing first came into news, my first reaction was, oh, it's in China. It's not going to come here. SARS never came here, MERS never came here. It's going to be there. It will get resolved and be done. So that's something like a denial. So you don't expect that, you don't accept that that is also likely to affect you. The next stage is when you realize that yes, it has come to India, it has come to your home, it is going to affect you. You start having emotions of frustration, irritation, anger. Why does my life have to change? What wrong have I done? Why hasn't the government taken enough precautions? Why hasn't this been done properly? So that is a natural reaction, which is the next step. The third step is that of bargaining. So there are a lot of changes happening, and I will try to bargain to the best of my ability. I will wear a full PP, do a COVID test, show that I am negative, and please let me travel. So I don't want to be cocooned up in my home. Once we start realizing that, yes, this is something which is true and which is likely to remain, there is a sense of despondency, despair, helplessness, because of the various factors that I highlighted earlier: pay cuts, job losses, personal losses, disability, etc. And that results in a feeling of sadness and depression. And finally, when we pass through these stages, we come to the stage of acceptance, where we understand and commit to the changes, and that is when we are actually ready to make adaptations and learnings to handle the change. Now, coming from a mental health background, I want to highlight that all stress or all emotional turmoil is generally associated with some kind of change happening within ourselves or outside ourselves in our environment. However, not all change leads to stress. Only some kind of change will lead to distress, and that distress will result in the kind of emotions that we discussed above, like fear, anxiety, worry. Even here, I would like to draw your attention to differentiate what is normal anxiety and what is abnormal anxiety. Normal anxiety is it's almost like a protective defense mechanism of humans to defend themselves against a variety of threats from our environment. So anxiety is not a bad thing. Emotions, in fact, are tools to react to situations and changes happening in our environment. And to a large extent, they are helpful. They are protective. They are adaptive. Say, for example, if a deer who's grazing in the fields was not anxious enough to pop his head up and check now and then, scan the environment for predators, it would run the risk of being attacked and eaten up. On the other hand, if another deer who is not bothered about the predators is going on munching on the grass, looking down, he has his livelihood sorted out. He is eating well, but he runs the risk of being attacked by the predator. So, as you can see, the excesses are detrimental. Too little anxiety or hypophobia results in risk taking. Perhaps having a careless attitude. No, nothing is going to happen. I'll do whatever I want to do. Too much anxiety can also result in problems. So you'll not be able to function well. It will impair your day-to-day activities. So there is a need to strike a balance, and this is how we have evolved, and this will remain with us. How much ever we don't want this to be, emotional trade-offs do remain. The next facet of understanding change is how we perceive change and how we understand change. It is very easy to look in these days with huge social media overload, news overload. A lot of things, a lot of information comes to us, but it is important to understand that not just the misinformation from social media, also our brain is sort of programmed to see and understand what it sees. You need to make that extra effort to scratch the surface and then understand in a deeper manner what actually is happening, and then perceive the change and then react to it accordingly. This case example of a 29-year-old builder who jumped a fence and landed on a 15-centimeter nail that pierced his foot, who was in extreme unbearable pain until he reached the hospital. And once he reached, you can see the image here, through the shoe, there's a nail going through. Once he reached the hospital, he went through anesthesia and the nail was removed. And when they took off his shoe, they realized that the nail had actually gone between the toes. And there was no damage to his foot. So you can see he had tremendous pain, but the actual problem was nothing. So your brain will trick you into believing what you want to believe based on what you see. So it's important for all of us to take care of the information overload. How do we do that? You have reliable sources. You refer to reliable sources, verify for yourself what is correct, what is not. I have listed certain important reliable sources here, and you could search their websites. Otherwise, you'll end up having a risk of running into the gigo effect. You'll get garbage in and garbage out. So you'll be misinforming yourself and reacting to something which is wrong. The next aspect of change is understanding that as humans, yes, man is a social animal, and coronavirus has hit us where we are what we are. Social distancing is quite antithetical to our own existence. We have innate impulses, innate tendencies to meet people, to interact with them, to talk to them, to understand their thoughts, emotions. So social interactions are part of human existence. But right now, it is time to respect the change and a need to inhibit our innate impulses and develop strategies to overcome or bridge the social divide and use different kind of platforms like what we are doing right now to bridge the social gap. Well, so, not all change is threat. Change can also present as opportunity. We know that disruptive changes across time points in history have yielded the best innovations. Shakespeare composed King Lear during the bubonic plague shutdown in London in 1606. 60 years later, Newton was quarantined during the bubonic plague again in Cambridge, and this is when he crystallized his theories of gravity. Perhaps it is then that he was sitting in his room and staring out at his apple tree, and he saw the apple fall and thought of the theories of gravity. So this is what I want to highlight, that change need not be something which is always to be perceived as a threat. It is also an opportunity, and it gives us enough time to, at least this situation that we are in gives us enough time to ponder, daydream, let our minds wander, and be innovative and do something new. So, having understood the various facets of change, let us now look at how holistic well-being can be achieved by adapting to this change based on this understanding that we have. The first thing, perhaps, is to go through the change curve and reach the end. Because if you're not going to accept that change is here to stay, you're not going to move forward. The first balancing act that one needs to do is between work and life. That's the eternal debate in these times about livelihood versus health. How much do you work and how much you are allowed to work versus how do you protect yourself with respect to the pandemic. Something which is important here is although we have a lot of time, but it is out of our typical patterns, and we have been put into a different situation, so we need to adapt. um, Isha will be talking something more about our innate temperament and adaptation. But some external techniques that help is managing time. This is a 4-quadrant method of time management where we see generally we currently are doing something which is very important and very urgent, and we neglect things which are important but not very urgent. By doing things which are unimportant and urgent. So we need to shift our quadrants and place our needs and whatever our prerogatives are, we have to prioritize them properly and spend time. Routines are good to deal with loneliness and the social isolation. Routines are something which are recommended by astronauts who are traveling in the space station and stay secluded for months on end. They follow strict routines and they are constantly active. They are physically active, mentally active, socially active. So it is important to have these dimensions, even spiritually. So you cover different aspects of your routine and look at different areas where you can cover and be active. Something which is important here while balancing work and life, and something which would be spoken about later by Xerxes, is how to take care of yourself. A balanced diet, good sleep are two very important areas. And we should remember COVID is not the only illness in town. There are other diseases, disorders, and we need to protect ourselves from that. So all the other things that we do to take care of ourselves should continue. I told you about how innately social we are, and we need to define essential needs and act accordingly in terms of our social exposure. Something which is a guiding principle is let informed caution and not blind fear be the guiding force. Use technology efficiently. Don't make it an overkill that can have its own adverse effects. Each one of us have to understand where on the spectrum of hyper or hypophobia we lie. That can be done by self-reflecting, understanding past patterns of response to change, and be ready, preempt and be ready based on how we have reacted, understand, self-reflect, and realize that this is what my pattern of reacting to change has been in the past. And this is how I need to change, or this is how I need to be prepared for the coming change. And of course, when the distress becomes unbearable, when it starts affecting your day-to-day functioning, your day-to-day living, seek help. Lastly, correct understanding is important. As I said, don't make impulsive decisions based on information that you encounter on social media. Verify for yourself through reliable information. Spend some time or wait it out. You'll get the truth will finally emerge. It'll take some time, but it'll emerge. So there's you need not react to something immediately unless and until you're sure that this is what is happening. And of course, lastly, this is not always a threat. It is an opportunity for us, especially in businesses, to recalibrate, to upskill ourselves, to see where the markets require, where the demands are growing, and look for gaps, look for demands, try to fill those gaps, be the first to fill those gaps, and you'll do well. Make use of the time, ponder, think, let your mind wander. And who knows, there's a next Newton or Shakespeare waiting to happen amongst us. So with this, I'll conclude my part of the presentation and hand it over to Isha, who will, being a child psychiatrist, she'll be talking about how, what lessons can children and childhood give us in terms of dealing with change, because children are always going through changes. So I'll now hand it over to Isha.
Hi, very good evening, everyone. Sorry for the disorientation. So I think Urvaksh has already covered basically, different ways and how we look at change and how we need to have a holistic approach. I just thought I would make a couple of points about, see, change is very inherent in the very nature of our beings, right? We're all constantly changing, we're all constantly evolving. So change has always been pretty much there. So this is, the next 5 to 7 minutes are going to be an exercise in basically self-reflection and trying to recap stuff that we've already done and how we can take from our own childhoods, take from our children's childhood to see how we can apply some of the things that they are doing in terms of holistically approaching change. So let me ask let me ask you all to think about your first day in school, your first night in the college hostel, your wedding, when you brought home your baby, your daughter's wedding, the day you finally closed all your loan payments, and the day Prime Minister announced the lockdown. Is there a similarity across all of these? Did your life change? Your life changed at each and every of these occurrences. Did you have apprehensions as you moved through these changes and as you were going into the next phase of your life? More importantly, could you actually deal with every apprehension that you had at that time? So you got married, it was your wedding, and then did you know everything to expect, everything, how you're going to handle it, what's going to happen in the future? No, you didn't. No, you haven't dealt with all the apprehensions, perhaps even now. So then, what is so different about COVID-19 and lockdown? I know I'm going to probably sound a bit ridiculous right now, but hold on to that thought, and I'll come back to making a point later on. So, what do kids say about COVID-19? It's quite interesting. So Charlie asks his mom, what day is it? And she says, Tuesday. Is there still coronavirus? Yes. And Charlie says, okay, well, that's all right. So we still have coronavirus, and that's how it is. Another child talks about, Harper talks about how he has actually kept them all locked in so that the sickness can stay out. Maddie is more, full of wisdom. She talks about how there's no school, they're all stuck at home. But at the same time, look at how beautiful spring is. Look what wonderful walks we could go on. And Jonah, a 13-year-old, is just so happy because he doesn't have to wear pants anymore this month because there's no school, there's no going out. So he can just be at home comfortable. Now, the idea here is that, so whereas Charlie is very factual and, just stating facts as it is, yeah, so coronavirus is there, what can you do about it? Harper is more, perhaps thinking the entire world revolves around him and he's got the coronavirus and his family all in order. Maddie is, of course, full of wisdom, and Jonah's just having a good time. But what you don't see in any of these responses is anxiety. What you don't see is apprehension that we are all, making ourselves go crazy over. Children, by their very nature of being children, are changing each and every single day. So change is their definition. Change is what defines childhood. Yesterday was not like today, and tomorrow is not going to be like today. And where are all these changes happening? All of these changes are happening in each and every aspect of their development. So we were asked to talk about a holistic approach to change, but look what's happening here. We're actually thinking of it in terms of holistic development. So each and every aspect of their lives is developing. So what is happening that, from birth to as we go up the age range, from being extremely egocentric and, just about me and my parents and my little world, they go on to develop more and more abstract abilities. They understand what is good for the family, what is good for the world, what is good for life, move towards their own identities, move towards intimacy, generate. So, so much is happening throughout childhood, and we have all been there. It's not that children are doing that now. We have all done it. We have all been there. We have all been, to the first day at school, to the first day in class 6, first day in class 8. So it's all happened to each and every one of us. And if you actually reflect back, you could actually, perhaps think of how you were in grade 5 and how suddenly things changed when you were in grade 10. The world just seemed so much different. So basically, from being the center of our worlds, we step on to the platform of the world and just become one amongst many. And that is how drastic the change is that has already happened in our lives. Of course, it's not, equally easy for everyone. Some people adapt to change very easily. Some people just don't adapt, just keep complaining. Whereas some of us are very anxious and maybe very, very hesitant and very, very slow in accepting change. And I know Urvaksh has referred to some of the things that could assist us with going from the difficult and anxious to the easy. Now, interestingly enough, it is, some aspects of our development. So the spiritual aspect, the social aspect, the emotional aspect, and the cognitive or the thinking aspect, that are actually the mediators of change processing. So these are the very things that help us process change. Let's try and understand this a bit more. So what am I going on harping about children change and children learn? So basically, all of us go around with a mind map about how we understand the world to be, right? So what I know so far is my mind map. And then the environment keeps throwing newer and newer challenges every single day. As the environment throws these challenges, especially in childhood, I am forced to adapt. I mean, could I have, made a choice? Hey, mom, dad, I'm just not going to go to school. There's too much change. Or I'm not going to go to college because there's too much change. No, these changes were thrown at all of us and we adapted to them. How did we adapt to them? Either by changing the environment. So sometimes it was just easy, you could trick everybody else and just work your way out. But at other times, and probably at the most time, because that's what development does, it changes you. So the majority of change that has happened in your life so far has been because of the change inside of you. You have accommodated the environment. You have changed yourself rather than, changing your environment. So see how internal this process is. So what are we complaining about? So COVID-19 is pretty much on the same dimension. So basically, a child's response to change or stress, and here we have 3 children perhaps responding to a class test. A child's response to change or stress is the result of their developmental level, their temperament or their personality, and the learning process. Now, while development and temperament are, they're pretty genetic, you're born with it and you just go along with it. It is the learning process really that, we have to get a good grip on, that we have to understand how is this working and really see how we can make it work to our advantage. So dealing with any kind of stress is basically learning. And how do we do this? We either do this on an existing template, right? So I've done this before. I've taken a history test before. I know how to do it again. Or we experiment. Oh, okay, this is a surprise test. Haven't done this math problem before, but let me see if I can apply some of the other formulae that I know. And we learn from others. So we either observe or we get instructions, right? And this is, I think a couple of weeks ago, we had an exceptional talk by Dr. Parvin Dadachanji, who actually spoke about how parents assist. So this is basically where the role of parent-child relationship comes in, where children observe and take instructions from parents to adapt to change. But the other two is all them. So the existing templates and the experimentation is all kids. And it just does, it doesn't mean that children don't have a negative reaction to stress. Of course they do. I mean, I'm sure all of you have kids at home who have been asking all kinds of worrisome questions, who've been going through some very difficult emotions, and who've had problematic behavior that you're trying to get your head around. But whatever be the change, positive or negative or difficult or easy, the learning process or the variables that help us go through that learning process don't change. So, again, something that Dr. Parvin spoke about, that no school, so course is incomplete. So basically parents step in and kind of make a plan with the child, can't meet friends, so there's loneliness and boredom. And then again, they develop a holistic response to how they can best deal with it. I'm not going to go into the details of that. But now I'm going to come back to my original question, that what is so different about COVID-19? What is so different about the lockdown? The difference is that we don't have an existing template. We have never been in a situation like this. We don't know where this came from, and how much ever we want to curse and crib about China and all kinds of stupid things that they do, but it just doesn't help give us a good understanding, give us a good grip on how to deal with this situation. So and the existing template is in the biggest font here, because as adults, this is what we're doing most of the time. As a practicing psychiatrist, 90% of my work is based on existing templates. It's only 10% that I'm actually called to think about. For example, this presentation is one such situation where I actually have to sit and think, okay, what do I do? How do I approach this? Right? So 90% of our lives are existing templates. Perhaps another 5 to 7% is instructions. So somebody told you wear a mask, wear a PPE, stay 6 feet away, and okay, so instructions are kind of working. But where are we falling short? Where are we different from children? And what we need to learn from children and from our own childhoods is to go back to being more experimental and being more observant. And to be able to, experiment more, observe more. So see, everyone's at home and everyone's so uncomfortable because the space is gone, the routine is gone, the existing templates are just off the table. So this is where, when the stress starts to get in, we need to actively ask ourselves, how do I experiment? How do I create something more innovative and meaningful and fun out of this? And what do you need to experiment and observe? Dealing with change requires openness and affiliativeness, two things that grossly diminish as we become adults. We become very, very close and we become very, very isolated as we grow up. And this is something that children are just brimming with. Children are okay with going anywhere, meeting anyone, being with any place. In fact, they force you to do stuff like that. They force you to get on that new ride. They force you to get on that new shopping mall, etc. So dealing with change requires openness and affiliativeness, and that is basically the point I wanted to make, taking you through this journey of child development and how children are dealing with change and how we need to learn from them. Thank you very much.
So anyone has any questions for Isha? We'll take them first and then we'll go on to Urvaksh. Any questions?
Request you to unmute if you're asking a question.
So, Dr. Isha, this is Shanaz here.
Yes.
Is it the fact that children who live with joint families adapt to change much faster and are easier to adapt to these kind of problems? Because living in a joint family gives you the strength and the ability to, with so many elders around who help you to cope with this. The coping capacity is stronger.
Yes. So, I was talking about existing templates. Now, a joint family, so the number of your templates automatically goes up because you have just, already lived with so many people. You already are familiar with so many different ways of functioning. So yes, there is a certain advantage that children living in joint families perhaps have. But having said that, it's not that, it's not that it can be prescribed. So it doesn't mean that stop living in nuclear families, go to living in joint families. It doesn't mean that. But Am I still audible?
I'm sorry. I just, because we needed to see you, somebody
Okay.
requested to stop the screen share. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. I thought I went offline. So yeah, so that's the what I was saying was that yes, there definitely are better adaptability and better coping strategies that that a joint family system gives. That is one variable, and then there are the other things. So a child's temperament is perhaps the most important thing, right? A child's person. I mean, we know that there are more than enough problems in joint families too, and which is perhaps why it shifted to nuclear families. So yes, there are more templates, but the temperament is what mediates your actual adaptation in a given situation.
Child is considered a child till 12 years of age.
Is that a question?
Child is considered a child till 12 years of age.
Well, the official definition is till 18. But I mean, yes, adolescents do have a lot of hypothetical thinking and reasoning, perhaps even working at a slightly higher level than adults. So for all practical purposes, they are capable of taking in information and responding in a mature manner. But 18 years is the limit.
So there's a very wide window between a 4-year-old and an 18-year-old in their cognitive part.
Yes, there is. And which is why the response to change also differs so drastically across childhood.
Is there any stress due to peer pressure?
Oh, lots. That's after parents and family, I think that tops the list of sources of stress for children.
Okay. Great. Very happy to have listened to both of you.
Pali, shall we, if there are no more questions, I think we can end this segment.
Hi, Zareen.
Urvak, Shanisha, thank you very, very much. And on behalf of all the committee members and other members of the WZCC Bangalore chapter, I do hope that you have some kind of template to work on very soon, so that there are broader smiles on everyone else's faces as we battle this horrid COVID phase. Thank you ever so much for a wonderful talk, both of you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Krishna?
Thank you, and a warm good evening to everyone. And I have been entrusted with the responsibility today to introduce and have a lovely, exciting conversation with Chef X, Chef Success. So where are you, Chef X? I can't see you on the video right now. Let's say hi to everybody.
If everybody switches to speaker view, it'll be easier to see the person who is speaking.
Success?
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can't
Yes.
see you, Success.
Sorry?
Is your video on? Because we can't see you. It says video on, but we can't see you.
My video is on.
Okay, I can see Alexis now.
No, yeah,
I can see him. Yeah.
Yep, I can see him too.
Yes, okay.
Hey, so let me introduce Xerxes. And before we get on this conversation, Xerxes is one of our celebrated chefs, a sous chef, well qualified from Le Cordon Bleu. And that's one of our prestigious colleges and culinary schools established in Paris. But Xerxes went to Sydney, studied all the way there, worked in an array of restaurants in Sydney, came back to Bangalore and was an entrepreneur chef with Red Fork, and then moved back to Sydney now, and he's a head chef in Perth. Xerxes comes with, an area of, experience with the chef side of his skills, as well as being a leader in the kitchen. And today we're going to explore different aspects of this entire industry and some interesting thoughts, which, Chef X spoke to me about as we were planning out for this entire interaction today around the food philosophy. Yeah, so we'll come back to that. But before that, an interesting question that I had asked, and I think it's a great share. And Xerxes, how does one become a chef? Let everybody know, what is this entire glamorous career all about, right? Some of us think we make the best dhan saag or curry chawal and we are chefs. But tell us more. How does one pursue being a chef?
Honestly, in my time, it's basically it's because you weren't good enough for anything else. No, I think for me, it became I became a chef because I think now when I think back, I always had food around me growing up. Food was always important to me. Mom had the restaurant, I think, since I was 10 years old. So I was always there. And then she associated with people who had restaurants, which also, I suppose, influenced me. And I used to go and work in their restaurants during my school holidays. All this time not knowing that I actually wanted to be a chef. I was just doing it because I thought it was fun.
That's great. Success, you're on mute.
Yeah, someone muted me. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so I suppose the food and the hospitality industry was always there, kind of in my subconscious. And growing up, I always want to be different compared to everybody else. And I think the advantage I had is I got a chance to go to a very good school. And in our school, colleges would come and give presentations, especially to the 11th and 12th year students, and you had to decide where you wanted to go. And for some reason, the rep from Le Cordon Bleu popped up in our school, and and I thought, wow, this is something so unique and so different. And on the day, I think I just decided that that's what I wanted to do. In saying that, I suppose you can say passion for cooking started me off on this journey, but also something about the love of the industry is what kept me in it at the moment. So you can have people who do enjoy cooking, and maybe really good cooks as well at home, or can cook for a small party of 6 or whatever. But to be a chef, it's a whole different lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, honestly. It's not a career. It's a lifestyle. You have to adapt your whole life to basically living the opposite of the majority of the planet.
Right. Yeah. And it's a lot of this discipline and odd hours, right?
Oh, hard work is, if you attributes, hard work is number one. There is no doubt about it. Discipline for sure. Practice, I think practice makes perfect. No one became a good chef in a month's time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Another thing that people actually forget, that there's a difference between a cook and a chef. A cook is someone who can cook a dish. A chef is someone who can run a business as well.
Fantastic. Wow. That's a lovely line.
To be, a lot of people are great cooks, but when it comes down to running a restaurant or in a kitchen, or a part of a kitchen in a hotel, or a part of a kitchen in any food business, you need to understand different aspects. Cooking is the basics. To move to the next level, you need to know how to cook. Then comes kind of the creative part, the fun part, the research part. Then comes the monotonous part, which is the business side, your costing, your understanding of labor, your whole HR role. So it's kind of, when someone says chef, everyone thinks, oh, he can cook. But a chef is actually a lot more. A chef is someone, cooking is a base and running a business is second,
Right.
So, yeah.
That's interesting.
You need to yeah, hardworking for sure, discipline, always, ready to learn, regardless of your age, because food is evolving. So you need to always be open-minded, always learning. You can't kind of stick to what you know, because it is trendy as well. It is
Mm-hmm.
fashion. Food is fashion. So you can pretty much get wiped out as a chef if you do not move with the times.
That's an interesting point, right, Success? I think what you've said, and it relates back to what we've been talking. If a chef doesn't pivot, if a chef doesn't change, one can easily get redundant with the kind of industry that this is. But I have one more question. It's such a tough job being a chef, and you're tasting all the yum food all the time. What is your food philosophy? How do you think one needs to balance out time, work, nutrition? Tell us something more about that food philosophy that you spoke with me about.
So basically, our food philosophy is very simple. It's keep it clean and keep it fresh. To start with that, um, look, I'm no nutritionist or dietitian, but I think with our lifestyle, like you said, we're on our feet 12 to 14 hours of the day, tasting a whole array of foods. People always think that today's restaurant food is all about butter and cream. It's not. That's a more 1990s in France. Now it's, like I said, it's more trendy, so it's a lot cleaner. It's basically what we basically cook what the people want, what the customers want, right?
Right. Yeah.
So and a bit of our own touch. So, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
our philosophy, and I'm very lucky that my personal philosophy and the philosophy I have with my team is the same. So we keep it clean, we keep it fresh. So fresh food, number one. We try not to have anything that's too processed or
Right.
frozen, or
Mm.
has a couple of years on the shelf. So we keep it fresh. We keep it clean. So basically, no, not too many sugars. And when I mean sugars, I mean artificial sugars.
Mm-hmm.
Any products that have high sugar content, sugary drinks, things like that. Even oily foods or deep fried foods. So try to keep everything as clean as we can, as healthy as we can. And then that's on more on the personal side. And then when you come to the restaurant side, it's obviously using innovative cooking techniques to kind of get these ingredients to the next level.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
kind of what we do. In terms of kind of getting it back to my lifestyle is, uh, for example, we don't eat chips or fries at home. We keep it clean. I personally look at my day and I see that, okay, especially if I work out in the mornings and then I go to work, it's a big day for me. It's a lot of energy, given that my job is a physically
Mm-hmm.
demanding job. So I can eat a lot more calories during the day. So I
Right.
do eat a lot, a breakfast that involves carbs, a lunch that involves carbs, but I also keep, my protein intake in mind, my fiber in mind, my vegetables, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Good foods. When I snack on fruits rather than snacking on chips or chocolates or things like that, or what people think that gives them quick energy.
Right.
And in the night, I cut down on the carbs and I keep it to more clean, light stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Something like salads or simple grains and protein.
That's interesting. Right. And, I think if we also look at the way a lot of food has been changing, people have got more and more conscious about health, and they do want to have alternate carbs, right? When you get into a restaurant, you will see a section of people who probably want to have just different type of foods which get in with their fitness goals that they have, and the kind of lifestyle changes that are taking place. So some kind of thoughts on that, Xerxes. What can a chef do for the fitness fads that are there today?
the fitness fads, a whole bunch of them.
Yes, all the
So
diets, right? And
so
then,
many, yeah, there's so many different diets out there, and it's so hard to kind of satisfy everybody um, at the moment. But I think the best thing we can do is basically, offer alternatives. So, for example, uh, for white rice for now, right? I mean, white rice
hmm,
for fitness. Even for me, I mean, I do love my rice. I do love my curry chawal, but I try to look for alternatives to
right.
be healthier in that sense. But things like superfoods like quinoa or amaranth.
Hmm,
In India, amaranth is a very similar superfood to quinoa. Um, can be eaten in place of rice. Same energy output, probably a lot more healthier for you. A lot of fiber as well, and a whole bunch of different amino acids which your body needs. None of this is in rice.
right.
So we do try to cater. We can give the best alternatives. I think the most important thing is trying to keep yourself aware of what the options can be, what the different diets are available. But in saying that, honestly, I think especially for people like fitness buffs, yes, they probably do the research, but we have a lot of people who do diets who are probably unaware of what they actually need to follow, and how it may affect them, which is actually quite dangerous in
Completely
saying. But
agree. Yes, yes.
yeah,
A sugar-free may not always be the best wholesome thing to consume as compared to a nutritious meal plan, right? Which is balanced.
exactly, yeah.
Right.
Balance, I think a balanced diet is the most important. Yes, keto diets are the new in thing.
Hmm.
Is it still in India? I think so, yeah.
Yes, yes, it
uh,
is. Yes.
yes, keto diets, a lot of people go into it without understanding actual keto diets and ketosis,
Hmm.
without understanding the body. Like again, like I said, I mean, I'm not a nutritionist, but I think I've done my fair bit of research on keto diets, because
Right.
part of
Yeah.
my lifestyle is actually intermittent fasting, and I do kind of understand the whole ketosis process that the body goes through. But I think the most important thing is to understand your lifestyle,
Hmm.
your energy intake, what you've been used to doing, and what you need to do. After that, kind of go to the diet. And the most important thing is actually following a diet through. A lot of people think that a diet is only for 6 weeks. I think your body takes 6 weeks to just adjust to the diet.
Yeah.
Your, and then you'll actually see the results. We need to actually follow through with it. A diet is a life, it's your lifestyle. You need to become part of it and keep going on with it to kind of see the benefits it has.
Great, great success. And we just had Dr. Urvaksh talking to us about finding that time and the balance between diet and being active. And this whole balance is so important. And especially Dr. Urvaksh spoke about a couple of minutes back, especially at this point of time, and all of us are in this entire phase of lockdown, and probably the kind of activities that we have in our day-to-day life right now for some of us has really kind of stepped down. We're not really stepping out of the house too much here back in India, and the balanced diet, the time for exercise, I think all of that helps us work with change. Um if I can, just quickly, with your permission, get Dr. Urvaksh to also step into this conversation a bit and, share some thoughts, because it's kind of both our speakers today are giving us the same insight. So, Dr. Urvaksh, isn't this the same piece which you spoke about? Managing change is all about managing diet, managing your activeness. Just your thoughts a bit.
Yeah, I think change encompasses different aspects of our living, and um, if you look at the diet is not just your physical life. It is it touches not just your stomach but also your heart, your mind. So it is something which also keeps you going. And there are a lot of nutritional deficiencies which can result in fatigue and difficulty in concentration and mood changes. Like for example, vitamin deficiencies, vitamin B12, folic acid deficiencies, iron deficiency. So that is something which can be addressed by having a proper balanced diet, and especially in these times when we also try our best to keep our immunity levels high. I don't know how much of that can alone happen with diet, but diet is an important ingredient in keeping ourselves immune to any kind of.
Right. And you know what Chef X just said? Keep it clean, keep it simple, keep it whole, keep your foods very, very simple, and see the rhythm of your own body. And it's all about this change, I think, which all of us will need to think about. What are we going to have as a balanced diet, as a balanced time for activity, so that we can cope effectively, during this time of change. So let me just ask Chef X one more last question, before we get into Q&A, side of things. So Chef X, can curry chawal get creative at this point of time today? Can we get creative with curry chawal, or do you suggest that don't mess with the dhansak and curry chawal, have it when you want to have it, and or should we put a quinoa in place of rice? What's your food philosophy for that one?
I would say, I would say have it when you think you've earned it. I think that's the best way.
That's a nice one. Run that extra mile for the curry chawal.
Don't change the curry chawal, but I think it's, like I said before, it should be something that you've earned. So if you're going to be sitting around the whole day in your house, probably curry chawal or dhansak isn't the best thing to have. Given that you've been sitting around the house the whole week and you think you've earned yourself a dhansak on a Sunday, it's probably not the best idea. Like I said, I make sure that I try to use up all the energy that I've input into my body. Obviously healthy energy, not through junk. And then definitely one curry chawal every fortnight wouldn't hurt you.
Great. So don't mess with the curry chawal. get the activity inside.
It's no problem. You can definitely eat something more for lunch. It'll be much healthier.
Right. Great. Hey, let's open it up for some questions from our.
I would like to ask a question, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
Feroz up here.
Yes, Feroz.
Since you just a few minutes ago tried to distinguish between a cook and a chef, right? Essentially, a cook just follows a beaten path. But to my way of thinking, and I'm borrowing a little from my wife, who has some claims to being a cook, being a chef. She says that we got to be more creative. So a chef is distinguished from a cook by the fact that he or she doesn't just follow a beaten path, tries to create something new from the given recipes. And it is in that context I feel, don't fiddle around with curry chawal and dhansak. They're good as they are, but certainly explore new places where you can make some creative work based on whatever is available just now.
Yeah, I mean, yes. So is that a question?
And I think it was just a fun statement out there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say that the difference could also be that a chef is creative. He has to come up with new ideas. Probably the hotels have at all times keep announcing new dishes on their menu. This is what I call being creative. Would you agree with that, Xerxes?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I would agree with you. But honestly, there's a long journey between a cook and a chef. Cooks can be creative as well. There's no doubt. I have a whole team of cooks or junior chefs who work with me who are very creative. But in our industry, chef. Hello.
Hello.
Sorry.
I would like to ask Zakshis one thing. In this time of COVID, when our cooks are not coming, you emphasize that fresh food, fresh food. We cook 1 or 2 days, keep it in the fridge and use it for 2, 3 days. What about that?
That's fine. When I meant fresh food, I didn't mean that is fresh food you're cooking.
Yes, yes.
Two,
But
two,
of
three
course, the
days.
chicken is always frozen.
Sorry.
The chicken that comes is always frozen. It's not a fresh chicken.
You should try to buy fresh chicken.
Who's
But
going
in
to get it?
what I meant is try to eat more vegetables and fruits. In that sense, as part of your diet, eat more greens rather than eating more carbohydrates, more flour, more bread.
Oh my God.
Especially in a time
Bawajis
like this.
have potatoes in everything. What about that?
Well, you need to look for alternatives because in a time where there is not too much physical activity for you, even if you may not be physically active before COVID, you were still going out and doing things, expelling energy. But in a time like this, when you're at home for 70 to 80% of your day,
Yeah,
you may
yeah.
want to look at that and actually not, rely so much on the potatoes. And
Okay,
try to
yeah.
eat a bit more cleaner.
Thank you.
Success Shariar here. I've read a recent article in Times of India that excessive fiber can be harmful, whilst everybody says fiber is good for health.
Excessive fiber, yes, can be harmful, definitely, without doubt. But you need to incorporate fiber as part of your diet. And fiber doesn't necessarily mean eating the toughest vegetable, eating raw cabbage. It could also be, a lot of people peel the apple skin when they eat an apple. You should be eating apple skin as well, which is healthy, which is good. It's part of fiber. Small things like that. So if you incorporate fiber from different things in your diet, you won't have to force yourself to eat just a fiber heavy diet. It could be part of your ongoing plan. The simplest thing, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's not because fruits are healthy. It's because a thing like an apple has a whole, variety of different things your body requires, fiber being one of them.
Thank you.
And Xerxes, as you said, it's all about the balance, right? So it's all about the portions and balancing the protein with the fiber, with the carbs. So, and the exercise. So it's like a little plate which has all these little portions of, the protein, the fiber, the carb, and the exercise side of it, right? So I think that completes the entire balance.
I think what we need to do in a time like this, especially, is actually reflect on what your daily life is, and a lot of people eat, even though they might be, making tasty food or eating tasty food, they eat blindly, you know. So and sometimes you don't know, the effects are not immediate. The effects happen over time. For example, putting on weight, people, just because, like I mentioned earlier, you may not be an active person by actually doing exercise every day, but just enough for you to go outside, do your daily errands. That's you being active. That's your body using energy. In a time like this, when you're not allowed to leave your house, go outside, do these things, you're not even doing your basic, you're not expelling the basic energy that you used to do. But your diet is still the same as it was pre-COVID or pre-quarantine. And then 3 months down the line, you realize, you've put on 15, 20 kilos and you're wondering why that's happened. So, I think while you look at your mental health, you also should look at what you do on a daily basis and kind of, readjust that. People forget to do that. They forget to see what's in front of them sometimes.
Thank you, Xerxes. Any more questions?
When we put this, hey Sahan, when we put this series together, my mind went to the fact that some people, because they're in this situation today, tend to go on weird diets. For example, I won't eat carbs because I'm sitting at home. I won't eat this because I'm sitting at home. Now, this is also to Dr. Urvaksh. When we take off certain nutrients from our diets, it does have a effect on our mental health too, because there's loss of energy and you're very upset, you're irritable because you're not eating, you binge. So how does one manage that? Dr. Urvaksh also, both of you together.
I will, if you don't mind me starting.
Please.
Firstly, I think people go in, like you said, very radical diets. Uh, they change drastically without having knowledge of doing so. Most diet changes, you know, as per my knowledge, uh, just through food will actually affect you somehow. Like you said, it may change your mood positively or negatively. Especially a lot of people are going through this keto diet and they suddenly remove carbohydrates from the diet for a span of time will probably go into a very negative mood because it's almost a withdrawal that body is going to feel. In saying that, I think if you are going to change your diet, the first thing to do is probably some research and to consult somebody. If you have health issues, and I suppose if you have health problems, would be the smartest thing to do before doing it yourself. I mean, you don't have to drastically remove. I personally don't feel you should remove all the carbs, but let's say if you're eating 2 spoons of rice, 2 portions of rice a day, you can probably cut it down by half. That's not going to change your mood in any way. It's just going to kind of cut you down slightly.
Thank you.
Do you want Dr. Urvaksh to also give us a thought share on this?
That's okay.
Maybe there's a network connectivity issue. Any more questions for our chef right now who's on call with us? So I also told Chef X, at some point of time, you've got to tell all our youths, who aspire to become chefs in the future, what it's going to take for them to, pursue this particular line and career. So we look forward to a lot more conversations with you, Xerxes, and all the best. And thank you for this entire conversation. I enjoyed it, where we spoke about creativity, cooking, being a chef, and we also brought in the change that one needs to have, when one pursues being a chef, and the change we need to bring in the entire nutrition way of eating today. And so thank you. And let me hand it back to Dilshad. Thanks,
Thank you.
Success.
Thank you so much.
Pali?
Ali.
Success, it was great
Thank you, Uncle.
listening to you and the audience which I see sitting here, every one of them must have listened to you very intently. I'm not talking of the younger lot. I'm talking of the senior lot here. And that too Parsis. I don't know what kind of an effect a diet and the quantity and quality of food has on them. But having said that, let me also say that the Parsis have a knack of eating what they want, when they want, how much they want, and they still get through very, very well. It must be something in the Parsi genes. When anyone asks me a question on a diet, my answer to a diet is very simple. when you sit down to eat your breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and you've eaten, and when that mind of yours says, let me have one more toast, don't have it. And that is true dieting, not what you eat. I may be a bad preacher of good food, but and Xerxes may curse me, but this has been my philosophy all my life. I haven't changed my eating habits one single bit till this age. But as I said, that one extra thing which you want to eat, if you can avoid that, I think you're good. Thank you once again, Xerxes, and I know you're doing extremely well in Perth, and having eaten your lovely food in the restaurant in Bangalore, I'm sure you're going to reach great heights and be a great chef who will be spoken about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I would like to introduce you all to our next session. Our next session is planned for the 13th of September at 6:30 p.m. Dream Catchers, a panel discussion with entrepreneurs from different fields. On the panel, we have Anaita Batha from the field of child education, Ashima Major, varied home businesses, Dilshad Bilimoria, finance, Zubin Balaporia, music, and Zoish Hormazji from the field of manufacturing. The session will be moderated by Bangalore's most popular RJ, Darai Sunawala. Following the panel discussion will be a presentation on how musical harmony stirs the soul by Zubin Balaporia. Zubin will take us through some interesting history and anecdotes from the world of music while enthralling us with excerpts from classical to jazz to popular musical pieces on the piano. So, do join us for another interesting session on the 13th of September at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
I found it familiar. I will take over now for the last session, the last part of this session. Over the last 3 sessions that we've had, we've been talking all about change, adapting to it, overcoming the challenges. And funnily enough, the opportunity to practice that just made its appearance late last night. Asher and Cherry, who were scheduled in for the next segment of today's session, were asked to fly out to Chennai today to take their repatriation flight to Thailand, something they've been waiting to do for several months now. But in order to stick to their commitment to me, they worked all night to video the session, which I will play for you after this introduction. Give me a moment, please, to share my screen. I'm sorry, just sometimes the internet. Please give me a moment.
You want to see this, Kay? What? This next phase.
Could you please mute? Request. Sheriar, can you mute, please?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having some technical difficulty sharing my screen. I will try once more. So, Cherry and Asher are founders of a health and wellness company called Conscious You, based in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Their mission and drive is to help people live a healthy, conscious, and well-balanced life through mindfulness, yoga, movement, fitness, and holistic living. Their intention is to share their practice in various disciplines to help empower people, to support them to create better connections within themselves so that they can then build better connections with others, and to help people find peace and balance in life through holistic practice. Cherry's passion to continue learning brought her to India to immerse herself in ancient yogic science, and she acquired her yoga teacher certification from Ayush Yoga Darshanam in Mysore. Since then, she has been teaching various disciplines of yoga, including traditional Hatha yoga for all levels, yoga therapy, yin-yang yoga flow with natural movement, restorative yoga, and mobility training for better body functioning and pain management, both in Thailand and in India. Asher is passionate about fitness, holistic living, and all things health and wellness. He has spent many years in the health and wellness industry, learning, honing his skills, guiding and training people across all demographics, professions, and walks of life at premier fitness centers in India and Thailand. He is certified in several fitness programs, some of them being the Les Mills Body Pump, Reebok Metabolic Training, Functional Strength Training, therapeutic Thai massage, and he is a certified personal trainer. His specialty also extends to prenatal and postnatal training, injury rehabilitation, and weight management. My association with Ash and Cherry is special. Ash was our family personal trainer when we lived in Bangalore, and all three of us, Xerxes, my son, Sneha, my daughter-in-law, and me, spent many hours under Ash's care, working our way up to fitness levels we never thought possible, and yet enjoying every minute of it. Sneha worked out throughout her first pregnancy, right up till the last day, and she sailed through it a lot thanks to Ash. When I suffered a severe slip disc, it was Ash, together with my chiropractor, who got me back to a normal life and then gently nudged me to a fitness level I had never even visited in my dreams. I never really enjoyed yoga, thinking it to be a boring, slow way to get fit, until I attended one of Cherry's classes. Her calm, soothing, and yet firm coaxing, first to get into and then to hold those yoga poses, brought a sense of fulfillment that was new to me. We will certainly miss them, having them bring us this session live, but we thank them for making this huge effort to share their expertise with us. I will now put you onto the video. It's very interesting. They've tried to make it as interactive as possible. Give me 2 minutes. I have to switch out of one screen and switch into the other.
Jai? Jai? Ryan, just tell Jai it's a very interesting session of yoga and fitness if she wants to attend.
May I request Rati Wadia to please mute?
Sorry.
Hi, it's Cherry.
And this is Usher. We are founders of Conscious You, a health, wellness, and holistic services platform provider.
And we are on a mission to help empower people to live a more conscious, healthier, and a more balanced life through yoga, mindfulness, through movement, fitness, and holistic living.
Join in.
When we're talking about wellness or holistic living, there's so many more factors in this, right? Not just the food that we're eating or the exercises that we do. It's also about the lifestyle that you are leading, the kind of thoughts that you're putting into your head or into your life, and how you handle your emotions. So it's important for us to address the importance of the mind and body connection. So an example of the mind-body connection, I'm pretty sure many of you are aware of it already. For example, if we are feeling emotionally drained out, we're feeling sad or anxious, nervous, or depressed, you might notice some certain signs showing up in your physical body in the form of maybe when you're sad, your posture becoming slumped like this, and the chest is closed. When you are nervous, you have sweaty hand. When you are anxious, you might feel your heart rate is going up high. Or when you are depressed, you might feel very low in energy or physically fatigued. So those are the connection between the emotion that has effect on our physical body, and the other way around also. When we are not feeling well physically, for example, if you are an active person and one day you just tweak your back and you are not able to use your back the way you used to earlier, and some of you might be feeling frustrated or you might feel disheartened, right? And your mood might be kind of moody and not as lively as you used to. So that's a good example of the mind and body connection. More and more people are suffering from stress and anxiety, especially those who are living a frenetic lifestyle where everything you live in a fast-paced and modern lifestyle, right? And you start to develop erratic breathing pattern which affect our nervous system. And especially during this time in the pandemic where our routines are out of whack, and because we don't know where the world is heading to, which direction, what's going to happen with our work, and what would happen with our social connection, right? So this kind of thing, our brain perceives it as a threat or danger. And this may put us into the fight or flight and freeze response. And I will talk about this later in the next part. Some of us might be feeling the effect of stress and anxiety at different times and it would show up in the body, just like what I mentioned earlier, in the form of bodily sensation, the muscle tension, okay? And your heart rate might be going up high and your breathing pattern is very short and shallow. You might have a disturbed sleep at night, and some of you who feel anxious, you might experience the sense of unease, and just like on your edge or on your toes all the time. So that's an example of how stress is affecting us physically and emotionally. Did you know that our body and our brains are really smart? So the body knows intuitively what is good for it and what is not good for it. And it knows how to handle or cope with stress. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the first part first. Okay, I'll give you two different examples of this statement. Think about the primitive time where we used to hunt for food and we get raw meat, right? How do we know that we need to use or make fire to cook this protein? Our body intuitively knows that it prefers to have cooked meat or cooked protein because it's easier for the body to digest the raw protein that's broken down by the heat already before we put it into our body. And the other example of it knows what's good for it and it knows what's not good for it is that in the case of food allergy, right? Some of you may experience it before at some point, or just simply you had bad food before and your body want to drain things out in terms of diarrhea or vomiting, right? Those are very good mechanisms that it tries to protect us and reserve our energy from digesting those things that don't agree with us. So at this point, I hope that you appreciate and love your body much more for how your body loves you, and they try to protect you from a lot of various things. Intuitively, our body, the brain knows how to handle stress. we have two parts of our nervous system. The first part is called the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for preparing us to take action towards certain things, just to get us safe, to help us get away from danger. Okay, it's preparing and alerting us from danger, and this is called the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. Just think about, for example, if you're in a wild and you see a lion or an elephant running straight towards you, your critical thinking would not be working at that time, right? You would be either automatically you would want to jump out of the way, either to the left or to the right, or you would prepare to fight. Your muscle would get tense up and get ready to fight. But in this case, it seems like a big fight, right? So the other option is you either freeze and hoping that, okay, that would save me. So that is a very useful function that our brain is doing it to protect us from harm or danger. And when the event of danger has passed, right? So we have the other part of the nervous system. It's called parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for bringing the body and the mind back into a state of calm and relaxation. It's like a rubber band, right? When you stretch a rubber band, a good and healthy rubber band is able to shrink back into its shape. So that's how our nervous system works. A healthy nervous system should be able to access both the parts, because without the sympathetic nervous system, you would not be able to be so productive or get things done or protect yourself when you are in any danger, right? So, but we want to be able to stay in parasympathetic nervous system longer than in a alerting nervous system. Just like muscle memory, whatever we do often, our body and the brain is getting better at it, right? So when we are under stress for a long period of time, our brain is tricked to believe that we are in danger. And what it does is that the body gets stuck in that alert mode or the elevated mode in fight, flight, freeze mechanism, right? What happens to our body is when we're in that mode, we keep our muscle getting tense all the time, and it turns off our digestive system. It temporarily turns off our immune system as well. And think about if your heart rate is going up high, it's beating fast almost all the time, your breath is really short and shallow. That doesn't sound like a good state to be in for a long period of time, right? It's useful for a short term, but not for a long term. So it is important for us to learn to activate the other part of our nervous system, and in order to restore and to bring a sense of calm and relaxation back into our system. One of the most effective ways to deal with stress or anxiety, to soothe our nervous system, is through breath work. But have you ever wondered how or why breath work works? So there's something in our body called the vagus nerve. It is one of the 12 cranial nerves, and it is one of the longest nerves in our body. It runs from the brainstem, passing through different vital organs in our body, like through the digestive system, through our heart and lungs, liver, spleen, and pancreas. Our vagus nerve communicates information between our brain and several vital organs that are crucial for our body functioning. It is called the mind-body nerve or the brain-gut nerve for a reason, because it reads the gut microbiome and it initiates response to modulate information in our cells or in our body. Okay, so the key to activating the parasympathetic nervous system is through strengthening the vagus nerve, and there's something called vagal tone, which is a measurement of how strong your vagus nerve is. So when we have a good or high vagal tone, it means that we are able to relax much faster after stress, and that means it's a better body functioning for us, right? and resulting in better mood, and you become less anxious, you become more stress resilient, and basically you are able to shift from a negative place of emotion into a positive emotion faster. Okay, but when you have low vagal tone, low vagal tone is related to having symptoms of anxiety, depression, or people who are suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome, cognitive impairment, and it also means a higher rate of inflammation conditions like autoimmune disease. All of these things are completely opposite to the previous thing that I have mentioned earlier. And now let's take a look at how we can strengthen our vagus nerve, shall we? So one of the key things that we can do, just like what I mentioned earlier about the breath work, is through the slow, rhythmic, diaphragmatic breathing. So that's one of the best way to activate or soothe our nervous system, to activate the vagus nerve. Okay. The second thing is by humming, making the sound, because our vagus nerve is close to the vocal cord. So when we do the humming sound, like the Brahmari sound in yoga, or the Om sound, or chanting, that is a good way to soothe our nervous system as well. And think about when babies are upset, right? Automatically the mom or the caretaker would want to sing or hum something to soothe the baby. So our body, nature is really brilliant, right? So the third one that we can activate our vagus nerve is through speaking. Just because it's close to the vocal cord, through speaking is our way of communication, making connection with our society. Okay, it makes us feel safe and belonging in this society. So promoting a better health and a better mood. So the fourth one is through washing your body with the cold shower. There's very little study on this topic yet to find. The fifth one is through meditation, especially loving kindness meditation. And then the last one, remember I mentioned that the vagus nerve is the brain gut nerve, right? So take a look at balancing your gut health or the gut microbiome. A healthy gut means a happy brain. Okay, so at the end of the day, I'm not sure if you guys are aware that 90% of the serotonin, the happy hormone, is produced in our gut cells. So take a look at what you put in your body, the food. So
So that was Cherry telling us a little. I'm sorry we couldn't have them live. It would have been really nice because they do some Tai Chi, but this is what our current conditions are, and we just have to live with whatever is doled out to us. Before we end, we would just like to leave you with a few thoughts. I will put up a little poster, and we won't talk about it. This is for you all to just ponder over in the 3 weeks before we meet again on the 13th of September. So Fali, would you just like to say thank you to everybody for being here before I share my screen again?
Thank you, team WZCC Bangalore, Shana, Zareen, Anaita, Tushna, the whole lot who have done a fantastic job in getting this webinar across to the people. And we certainly look forward to catching up on the 13th of September to say hello once again. And I'm sure that session would also be a very interesting one for all of us to be there. So thank you all very much, and have a good day. Cheers.
I'll say bye now and share the screen and leave you with it.
Ah.
How did you manage